Hello there. My name is Mohammed Samgan Khan. I am a fellow developer in learning. Today we are going to discuss about API responses. Any developer who have ever created APIs knows the struggle in unification of API responses. Today we are going to uh, discuss the ways in which how we can unify those API responses. Without any further ado, let's get started. Here I have a fresh installation of Laravel with two API endpoints, success and error, which are returning data from some controller success and some controller error method respectively. Looking into the success and error method, we see it returns an array with four key: status, message, payload, and error. Some people also like to add status code in the error in the response payload, but that's up to personal preferences. But in my opinion, these four keys should always be there in the response. So, in order to unify these methods, in order to unify these responses, we need to create separate method for error and success. We have three approaches to do that. The first approach is the trait approach. We can create a common trait, and from that trait we can use the success and error method. The second approach is a class based approach, that we create a separate class for responses, and from those classes we call success and error method. And third is the response macro. We create a macro on response itself and we directly call those macros. We will discuss all three approaches in this video. The first approach we want to discuss is the trait based approach. In order to implement that, we have to create a trait. Go into app, we create a new directory called concerns, and in concern we say create a new class saying API responses. We have a class API responses. We create first static function success, and we return our success array. In order to pass the data dynamically, we create parameters, and we replace the message and the payload section. Success, success, and it returns an array. This is our success method, and if you run the API, you'll see that is responding from there. Now if you change this to API response success, and the output is still same, but we have a unified API response method. Now you can pass the parameter and message from here dynamically, and that would be replaced. And similarly goes for error message too. And we got message here, and we got payload here. We can also put error code equal to 500 as default, and error message as empty string. Our internal server error be wise choice, and we can replace these two too. Here, and this creates our error function, and all we have to do is called API response error. We go and run it, the same error message. This is the approach one, a class based approach. Oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to create a trait first. That's my bad. This is the class based approach. We create a class and we provide two static methods, error and success, and we can pass payload and message as per our requirement. You can create any number of given parameters in this and as per your requirement, but this will make sure that you have a unified success and error responses. Second approach, or which was supposed to be the first approach, is a trait based approach. So here, instead of concerns, we create another class, and it will be a trait, and it will be called API. And similar to this, we will create these to function in the trait itself. We don't need static in here because we will call it in the class itself. And we go in our controller and use API response. Okay, we need to move this so that the namespace doesn't conflict. And we have the trait now, so all we have to do is download this success. We test the API here. Kernel. That would be my bad. This is the same name as the function, so it's, let's say, APIs and API error. We here we API success and not this API error. Go and check. Yes, we have error. So this would be our second approach to create a trait and add the trait to the controller class or anywhere wherever you are sending the response from, and then use the trait as the unified method. And the third approach is a little bit more technical, where we create a macro on the response class itself. So if you go to app service provider, basically in Laravel, all most of, not all, uh, our classes are macroable. So basically what macro does is you can add your own function to those particular classes. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to create a function here, private function called load macros, and in this we will add a macro on response class called success. It will have the data, and we will go to our structure, same structure will return, data will go in payload, and the message was success. And this will create a macro on the response class itself. But before that, we have to call this load macros function in our register of the service provider, so that whenever the service provider is loaded, the container is loaded, these macros are loaded in the response class. So now in order to use this, all we have to do is go to our controller function, response, success. We will have a success here. Going back to the browser, testing this API content, we have a success message. Similarly, we can do the same process for error 2, and we will have error macro 2. So these are the three methods I prefer. One of the three methods I prefer for unification of API responses. In my opinion, the best approach is the macro approach because it's like more entangled with the Laravel itself. So please let me know if you have any questions or queries in the comment section. Thank you.